Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, welcome to the devotees online. Thank you very much for your attendance and association. As we continue Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 1, Chapter 16, verses 25 to 36, end of the chapter, how Parikshit received the age of Kali. Om Jnanatmivandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sva Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Taparakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Deva Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vevacha Patitanam Pavinabhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Sarva Shastra Piyusha Sarva Vedeka Satpala Sarva Siddhantaratnadya Sarva Lokai Triprada Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavato Prabhu Kali Dvando Didaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita Srimad Bhagavatam, O nectar churn from the ocean of all Vedic scriptures, O most prominent transcendental fruit of all the Vedas, O you enriched with the jewels of all spiritual philosophical conclusions, O you grant spiritual vision to all the people of the world, O light breath of the Vaishnava devotees, O Lord, you are the sun which has arisen to dispel the darkness of Kali Yuga. You are actually Lord Krishna who has returned amongst us. Paramananda Pathaya Prema Varsha Shivaryate Sarvada Sarva Sevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, I offer respectful obeisance unto you. By reading you unattained transcendental bliss. For your syllabus bring pure love of God upon your reader. You are always to be served by everyone, for you are incarnation of Lord Krishna. Madeka Bandhu Mat Sange Mad Guru Mad Mahadana Man Nishtaraka Mad Bhagya Madananda Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O my only friend, O my companion, O my teacher, my great wealth, O my deliverer, O my good fortune, O my bliss, I offer respectful obeisance unto you. Sadhu Sadhu Tadain Attini Chocha Taruka Anamanchakata Chinmam Premnarit Katyaspura. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O give us saintly and strand saintly, O uplifted very fallen, please do not ever leave me. Please become manifest Mahatma Throat, accompanied by your love of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadyasya Yutanvayaritartas Charte Swabhigna Swara Tene Brahma Hidaya Adikavaye Muyanti Yat Suraya Tejo Vari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatvati Sargom Risha Damna Swena Sada Nirasta Purkam Satyam Param Dhimai. O my Lord Shri Krishna, O prevailing personality of God, I offer my respectful obeisance unto you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the final cause of all causes of creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge into the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him even the great sages and demigods are put into illusion. As one is bewildered by illusory representation of water seen in fire, land seen on water. Only because of him the material universe is temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature appear factual although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existing, transcendental abode, which is forever free from illusory representation of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is absolute truth. Pranalpaisha Sabya Kalabasmin Yuge Jana Manda Sumanda Matayo Manda Bhagyupadartha. O learned one, in this iron age of Kali, men are but short lives, they are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. Narayana Namaskritya Narachevam Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisance to the personality of God in Narayana, and to Narayana, which is the supremest human being, and the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Savai Pumsa Parodan Moito Bhaktira Dokshya Ahitika Pratyata Yatma Suprasiddhati. The supreme occupation, dharma of all humanity, is that by which man can attain to loving devotional service under transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy itself. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janaya Atyusa Vairagyam Yanam Chayad Ahitakam. Rendering devotional service unto the personality of God, Shri Krishna, one immediately acquires causes, knowledge, and detachment from the world. Vedanti tattva vidas tattvam yat gnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti sabhyate. Then the transcendentalists who know the absolute truth calls non-dual substance Brahman Paramatma Bhagavan. Shri Shushosha Dhanasya Vasudevakata Ruchisyan Mahatsevaya Vipra Punya Tirtha Nishevanat. O twice born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely free from all vice, great service is done. By such service one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. Shranvatam Swagata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Yaddantastoya Vadrani Vidunoti Saritsatam. Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is Paramatma, supersoul in everyone's heart, and a benefactor of a truthful devotee, cleanses desire from material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee, who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtues and properly heard and chanted. Nastaprashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatu Tumasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular tenets in the classes of Bhagavatam, and by rendering of service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome, the heart is almost completely destroyed. And love is service under the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendent songs, is established as an irrevocable. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are continuing with Bhagavatam based on the teachings of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Hare Krishna, and welcome again. Let us share some feedback. If anyone can remember any points from last week's session, please share that. Amavati Vadika says, Sankirtan is the greatest benediction in this age. Lord Chaitanya gave us the simplest and most powerful process to achieve pure love of Krishna. This makes this age blessed, even though it's the most degraded and we are disqualified. Yes. And therefore, Srila Mahaprabhu is described to be Namo Mahavadanyaya. Not only has he come to give the most easiest process for the most fallen souls of Kali Yuga, but what's even more astounding is that what is giving through that process, through the chanting of the holy name, was never given before. In no process and in no other age and in no other incarnation does the Lord give pure love of Krishna, and especially that love of Vrindavan. That has never happened. The Lord can give different benedictions. The Lord can purify. The Lord can protect. But giving pure love of Krishna, that is very special, very unique to the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So in that way, this age and this period, especially the beginning of Kali Yuga, is blessed. And those that appear in this age, but those who take advantage of the process, of the opportunity. The advantage and the opportunity is always there. It just depends whether one wants to grab it and take advantage or not. Sharina says, Haribo, please accept my humble obeisance and appreciation. As one becomes more Krishna conscious, one's anxiety decreases. There's an interesting aspect to this. So material anxiety definitely decreases, but spiritual anxiety increases. As one becomes more Krishna conscious, then material anxiety in relation to the material body and things related to the material body, the material world, etc., decreases and basically zeroed eventually. But the anxiety for pleasing Krishna, for the devotees, for service, to give the best service, the anxiety of others suffering, that increases. So that is spiritual anxiety. One disciple asked, told Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, when we become very anxious when we're serving you, we're in great anxiety. I would say that is good anxiety. You want to trying to make sure everything is wonderful. You're trying to serve to the best of your capacity. When you're serving Krishna, serving the spiritual master, is it right? Is it, like a cook? You're cooking for the spiritual master. You're in always, in anxiety. So when we're cooking for Krishna, also we should be in anxiety. Is hope, I pray everything is nice and the Lord will enjoy. So in this way, that anxiety is not material anxiety. That anxiety is spiritual anxiety. Nalini Kantana says, Prabhu says, we want to be always depending on Krishna's mercy. Krishna's mercy comes as a rain. Yes. Dependence on Krishna's mercy, dependence on Krishna. This is what Srimad Bhagavatam is directing us to. Thank you, everyone, for your feedback. Let us continue. So, some of Srila Prabhupada's power statements. When the bull and cow are in joyful mood, it is to be understood that the people of the world are also in joyful mood. The bull and the cow can be protected for the good of all humanity simply by spreading the Brahmanical culture as the topmost perfection of all cultural affairs. By advancement of such culture, the morale of society is properly maintained, and so peace and prosperity also attain without extraneous effort. The people of the world in this age of Kali are always full of anxieties. Everyone is diseased with some kind of ailment. With the progress of Kali Yuga, the progress of the age of Kali, four things particularly, namely the duration of life, mercy, the power of recollection, moral and religious principles will gradually diminish. The materialistic men want to work hard and enjoy fruitive results for sense enjoyment. Thus, they are committing many types of sins at every step of life. Those, however, who are consciously engaged in devotional service of the Lord are transcendental all varieties of sin and virtues. For the devotees, there is no need for performance of the prescribed sacrifices because the very life of a devotee is a symbol of sacrifice. Lord Chaitanya, however, has recommended only one yagya or sacrifice called Sankirtan Yagya, chanting of Hare Krishna, in which everyone can take part. Thus, both devotees and fruitive workers can derive equal benefit from the performance of Sankirtan Yagya. All right, I think we covered that one. By the will of the Lord, the whole earth can at once be changed. He can do and undo a thing by sweet will. Therefore, no one should consider himself to be self-sufficient or independent of the Lord. So complete dependence on the Supreme Will. So today we're going to cover 25 to 36. Dharani express a pain of separation from the Lord and lamentation about the effects of Kali. It's 3 sections, 25, 34, remembering various qualities of Krishna, 35, who can tolerate separation from Krishna, and 36, by the time March Parikshit arrived there. Text 25. Dharanyo vacha bhavan hi veda tat sarvam yanmam dharmanu prishcha si chaturbir varteshe yena pader loka sukha vahai. The earthly deity in the form of a cow thus replied to the personality of religious principles in the form of a bull. O Dharma, whatever you have inquired from me is already known to you, yet I shall try to reply to all those questions. Once you too were maintained by your 4 legs, and you increased happiness all over the universe by the mercy of the Lord. Purport. The principles of religion are laid down by the Lord himself, and the executor of such laws is Dharmaraj or Yamaraj. Such principles work fully in the age of Satya Yuga. In Treta Yuga, they are reduced by a fraction of 1/4. In Dwapara Yuga, they are reduced to 1/2. And in Kali Yuga, they are reduced to 1/4, gradually diminishing to the 0 point. And then devastation takes place. Happiness in the world depends proportionately on the maintenance of the religious principles, individually or collectively. The best part of valor is to maintain the principles despite all kinds of odds. Thus, one can be happy during the span of life and ultimately go back home, back to God. So the first point, the principles of religion are laid down by the Lord himself. That means religion cannot be man-made. Nonetheless, okay, good. Shamananda says, Srimad Bhagavatam is giving us unlimited information, which we cannot get anywhere else. Srimad Bhagavatam has correctly foretold the events to take place in this age. We are first-hand experiencing them, so we must appreciate and embrace Srimad Bhagavatam, and I eternally indebted to Srila Prabhupada for giving us access to this knowledge. Yes. So appreciation of Srimad Bhagavatam and constant association with the Srimad Bhagavatam means constant association with this divine wisdom. Nonetheless, being in the age of Kali, we are the most unfortunate due to the age, and yet simultaneously we are the most fortunate because of the process of bhakti in this age. But when you serve, figure out for yourself for what purpose you are doing service, doing only for the pleasure of Krishna. So the more we practice serving and the more we hear, slowly our consciousness will go from I to my to Krishna. And that can only come with constant contemplation, constant hearing, constant chanting, constant serving, constant contemplation, so that we can mold our life. Without the external service is there to engage the senses, but where the mind goes, that's where you go. So service is there to purify and engage the senses, at the same time for the mind to be directed nicely. One needs proper association. So therefore, hearing regularly Srila Prabhupada's purports is very, very important to direct the consciousness, direct the mind. So in this part of the first part of the purport, Prabhupada is talking about religious principles, and these religious principles are laid down by the Lord. Dharma to Shakshat Bhagavad Paramitam. Bhagavatam says religious principles are laid down by Krishna. No one can create dharma. No one can create religion. Religion manufactured by men is mundane or material religion. It is based on the three modes at best, and it is bound by time. Real religious principles is given by the Lord himself. And if we execute those religious principles, we are protected by Dharma. Prabhupada says that as Kali Yuga, as the ages progress, then the desire, the tendency, the inclination to follow Dharma is reduced gradually, one quarter at a time. So we know that the nature of Kali Yuga is those souls who are coming into this age have very little inclination to practice Dharma. Now, if they have very little inclination to practice Dharma, what is the consequence? And it's interesting in this sentence in Dak, Prabhupada says, happiness in the world depends proportionately on maintenance of religious principles, individually or collectively. Very, very powerful point. We all want to be happy. Every single living entity in this creation wants to be happy. Just testing the sound. Okay. Maybe the others can just confirm if the sound is okay. This morning, my internet was a little unstable, so hopefully it's okay. All right, good. So happiness, everybody wants to achieve happiness. Now, if you want to achieve happiness, in the previous last week's lesson, we heard that if we serve and maintain the cow and the bull and the brahmanas, automatically, without extraneous efforts, we'll be happy. Now, the challenge is we in Kali Yuga, and we also impacted by the external environment of Kali Yuga, of the degrading age of Kali. But here is the interesting aspect. First point is that happiness in the world depends proportionately on the maintenance of religious principle, which means that if the world does not follow religious principles, they will not be happy. But if you do not follow religious principles, you will not be happy. And if you follow religious principles, you will be happy. Prabhupada says individually or collectively. So even if the whole world does not follow religious principles, but you are following religious principles, you will still be happy proportionately to how you're following and maintaining religious principles. So your happiness is really not dependent on what you do in terms of your occupation, in terms of how much money you got, your fame and success in the material world. No, your happiness is dependent proportionately to the maintenance of religious principles, which are set by Krishna. So that means if you follow Krishna's instructions to that degree, you will be happy, even if the rest of the world does not follow. Because individually or collectively we can help each other, but individually you can still follow or not. So that's a very interesting aspect, that even if everyone around you is miserable, you can still be blissful and happy. And as Kali Yuga progresses, those who are following Krishna consciousness will start sticking out like a sore thumb, because they will be the ones who will be more and more and more happy. People around will be suffering and wondering why, like this world is full of suffering. We're getting it from all angles, on all aspects. And here we find this person, he's like blissful. Just see his face, he's glowing, he's happy. What is he doing? So like that, like in the early days when the devotees go out on Harinam dressed in a Vaishnava attire, people were thinking, where did these people land from? Which planet did they come from? Because they look strange, dressed in dhoti kurtas, shaven head, sika. Devotees look very, very, very strange. That attire is very strange, especially in the Western world. So people would be curious at why are these people so happy? Sometimes people will think these people are on drugs. They're so happy. Next point, Prabhupada says that in Kali Yuga, the media is advertising and promoting that you should break the principles. Wherever you turn, wherever you see, the propaganda is about breaking religious principles. It's about not remembering God. So in that situation, Prabhupada says the best part of valor is to maintain the principles despite all kinds of conditions. So the test of strength, the test of valor, of how strong you are, is in you continuing to practice Krishna consciousness despite all kinds of odds. That is what Krishna sees. That no matter what happens, you will never ever go against the principles of religion. You will never go against Krishna consciousness. That determination, that conviction has to be there. And we need to strengthen that more and more and more. For example, if you study or see the life of King Harichand, Lord Ramachandra appeared in the dynasty of kings, and one of the kings in the Surya dynasty of that Lord Ramachandra was appearing was King Harichand. You can see there's actually an ITV production. If you just search ITV King Harichand, and a wonderful life story of King Harichand. Very, very inspiring. He was said to be the follower of Dharma, the epitome of Dharma. Yes, follow Prahlad example of overcoming despite whatever condition faced. Correct. So this is a perfect example of Prahlad Maharaj, that no matter what happened, he didn't even have a doubt when he was being attacked and practically his father tried to kill him. He didn't even have a doubt that maybe I should accept my father as God. No, he was firmly, totally, completely fixed. We may be tested, like King Harichand was tested, and when you see how much he was tested, Vishwamitra Muni was testing him, right to the extent where he had to kill his own wife. And he, in every test, he never gave up Dharma. So like that, we need to become very, very convinced of Krishna consciousness. Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains that doubt is the enemy. And therefore, Lord Krishna is instructing that we should slash this enemy of doubt. But we can only know what our doubts are if we're contemplating, if we're thinking about Krishna consciousness, we're thinking about these points. What is stopping me from being completely convinced? Am I completely convinced of Krishna consciousness? If somebody comes and says, give up Krishna consciousness, we'll pay you 100 million rands. Somebody comes and says, I'll kill you if you don't stop chanting Hare Krishna. Just like in Russia, in the book, The Salted Bread, where the stories of how Krishna consciousness started spreading in Russia. We read, in fact, there's also a drama created by the devotees in Pune. If you Google RG drama, it's called, I think it's also called Salted Bread. And in this drama, you also see how the Russian devotees, when they were captured by the KGB, they were tortured. The nails were pulled out, put into salt basins, electrocuted, blood drained, tortured in so many ways, inconceivable ways, to give up Krishna consciousness. And yet, they did not. That type of strong conviction, determination, this is what's required. And that is what Krishna sees. Now, we may slip, we may fall away, but we always have to bounce back. We always have to bounce back. And that's why constant association is good, that even if I fall away, it is not the end. Just like sometimes you may have a battle, and today you're fighting a battle and you may lose. That's okay. Tomorrow you can go back to war and fight another battle. As long as we do not stop fighting the war against Maya. We can lose one or two. We can be weak while we're fighting. Therefore, we retreat. We go into different retreats, energize ourselves, repower ourselves, become more convinced by powerful association, and we go back into the war zone. So in this way, we need to continue like that. And if we do that, Prabhupada says, thus one can be happy during the span of life and ultimately go back home, back to Godhead. So is it possible to be happy in this world? Most definitely. Most definitely. By following the instructions given by the Bhagavatam and Srila Prabhupada. Text 26 to 30. So now we're going to hear the Mother Earth sharing some beautiful verses about this Krishna. Satyam Saucham Daya Shantis Tyaga Shantos Arjavam Samodamas Tapas Shamyam Titikshob Parati Srutim Jnanam Viraktir Aishwaryam Sauryam Tejo Balam Smriti Swatan Triyam Kaushalam Chantir Dhairyam Mardavam Evacha Pragalbhyam Prashraya Shilam Saha Oja Balam Bhaga Gambhiryam Stairyam Astikyam Kirtir Manonahankriti Ete Chanyencha Bhagavan Nityayatra Mahaguna Pratriya Mahatvam Ichabir Navi Yantisma Karhichit Tehanam Guna Patrena Srini Vashena Sampratam Sochami Rahitam Locham Papmana Kalineshtam. In him reside truthfulness, cleanliness, intolerance of others' unhappiness, the power of control, the power to control anger, self-satisfaction, straightforwardness, steadiness of mind, control of the sense organs, responsibility, equality, tolerance, equanimity, faithfulness, knowledge, absence of sense enjoyment, leadership, chivalry, influence, the power to make everything possible, discharge of proper duty, complete independence, dexterity, fullness of all beauty, serenity, kind-heartedness, ingenuity, gentility, magnanimity, determination, perfection in all knowledge, proper execution, possession of all objects of enjoyment, joyfulness, immovability, fidelity, fame, being worshipable, pridelessness, being the supreme personality of Godhead, eternity, and many other transcendental qualities which are eternally present and never to be separated from him. That personality of Godhead, the reserve of all goodness and beauty, Lord Shri Krishna, has now closed his transcendental pastimes on the face of the earth. In his absence, the age of Kali has spread its influence everywhere. So I'm sorry to see this condition of existence. So Dharma had asked Mother Earth, why is she crying? Why is she suffering? And here's the first response. She is extensively glorifying the qualities of Krishna and sharing that this person who was just here performing these wonderful pastimes is now left. So who is this person? We see this beautiful picture of Mother Yashoda and baby Krishna. This person that Mother Yashoda is wonderfully and lovingly embracing, that's the person who we are eternally related with. Supreme personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna. And in these qualities, which I'm going to recollect again, I'm going to read again, try to appreciate. She is sharing 40 qualities. Earth is sharing 40 qualities of Krishna. when we talk about developing a relationship with Krishna, we should first and foremost understand he's not a demon. He's not there as a headmaster to punish people. He is not there with a stick waiting to punish us at, at every point to see, oh yeah, you did this wrong, whack. No, this is not Krishna. In these qualities that we read, we only find auspicious and wonderful qualities that attract us to Krishna. Krishna is there, and for us to develop an impetus, a desire to have a relationship with Krishna, we need to know about Krishna. Without knowing about Krishna, we cannot be attracted to Krishna. You can only love someone, you can only develop a relationship with someone that you know. So when we're going through these qualities, first, it allows us to know Krishna, which is wonderful, so that when somebody asks you, why are you so eager to develop a relationship with Krishna? We can pull this verse out, Canto 1, chapter 16, verse 26 to 30, and tell him this is why. And as we're going through these qualities, each of the qualities could be a lesson on its own, which then can attract us to Krishna. So as we're going through these qualities, just appreciate how wonderful Krishna is. If there had to be a person who was an embodiment of all these qualities, would he not be attractive? Most definitely. Now, is there such a person? Most definitely. And do you have a relationship, an eternal relation with this person? Most definitely. And some of these qualities are just amazing, extraordinary, as they would say, far out. In him resides truthfulness. Krishna, and it's like if you had to take the demons and the devotees. Those who are devotees, they always tell the truth. Those who are demons, they always speak the lie. So Krishna's nature, truthfulness, cleanliness, intolerance of others' unhappiness, the power to control anger, self-satisfaction, straightforwardness, steadiness of mind, control of sense organs, responsibility. Krishna is very, very responsible. Imagine having somebody, having a partner, having a well-wisher, having a master, a leader who is fully responsible. Equality, tolerance, equanimity, faithfulness, knowledge, absence of sense enjoyment, leadership. It's a perfect leader. Chivalry, influence, the power to make everything possible. He can do anything. Why wouldn't somebody surrender to Krishna? He can do anything. The discharge of proper duties, complete independence, and he's independent. He doesn't need or depend on anything. Dexterity, fullness of all beauty, serenity, kind-heartedness, somebody that is so powerful, that's independent. Generally, like demons, they would become arrogant, proud. But Krishna, on the other hand, even though he is totally independent, he's humble, he's kind-hearted, ingenuity, gentility, magnanimity. He's gentle, he's magnanimous, determination, perfection in all knowledge. If you know Krishna, you know everything, because your friend, your buddy knows everything. Don't need to ask Google. Somebody asks you a question, Krishna, Krishna tells you. Proper execution. Possession of all objects of enjoyment. Joyfulness. Immovability. Fidelity. Fame. Being worshipable. Pridelessness. Being the personality of Godhead. Eternity. If you develop a relation with Krishna, it is eternal. So how wonderful. Such wonderful qualities of Krishna. And Prabhupada gives fairly extensive purport. Even if it were possible to count the atoms after smashing the earth into powder, still it would not be possible to estimate the unfathomable transcendental qualities of the Lord. We just covered 40. Even Prabhupada says, even if you take the whole planet and smash it into powder and count the number of atoms, still will not be able to estimate Krishna's qualities. So that means Krishna has inconceivable number of qualities. Such is Krishna. And unfortunately, we have left and forsaken a relationship that we had with this personality. And now Srimad Bhagavatam is trying to rekindle, respark, give you a jump start in a relationship that we have forgotten. That this is the person you left, inverted commas, you foolish nonsense. How could you leave such a person? Okay, don't worry about how you left such a person. Now consider re-establishing your relationship with that person, because he is a wonderful person. And being with him, you'll be happy. You're suffering, yes. Why? Because you have separated yourself with such a person. Prabhupada says, it is said that Lord Anantadev has tried to expound the transcendental qualities of the Lord with his numberless tongues, and that end, numberless tongues, and for the numberless years together, it has been impossible to estimate the qualities of the Lord. So Ananta Sheshwari, 1,000 mouths, has been glorifying the pastimes and qualities of Krishna since time immemorial, and still hasn't completed, still cannot come to an end. The above statement of the qualities of the Lord is just to estimate his qualities as far as a human being is able to see them in him. But even if it is so, the above qualities can be divided into many subheadings. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, the third quality, intolerance of others' happiness, can be divided into 1, protection of the surrendered souls, and 2, good wishes for the devotees. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord states that he wants every soul to surrender unto him only. And he assures everyone that if one does so, he will give protection from the reactions of all sins. See, Krishna is not telling us to surrender because he needs us. It's like his servants, he's in HR, when people join a company, then the HR department have to analyze how many people are leaving so that they have to re-employ the staff. Krishna does not have that problem. Even though millions of souls have left Krishna's spiritual abode, Krishna's got unlimited servants in the spiritual world. So that means if we leave Krishna, he's not missing us in that sense. He's not losing. So his service continues. We are the ones that are losing. So therefore, Krishna is encouraging us to surrender, and that surrender If we surrender, then Krishna says he will give protection from all sinful reactions. Unsurrendered souls are not devotees of the Lord, and thus there is no particular protection for everyone in general. For the devotees, he has all good wishes, and for those who are actually engaged in loving transcendental service of the Lord, he gives particular attention. He gives direction to such pure devotees to help them discharge their responsibilities on the path back to Godhead. So those who surrender, those who are interested in Krishna, Krishna is interested in them. And Krishna directs, Krishna gives direction. Equality indicates that the Lord is equally kind to everyone, as the sun is equal in distributing its rays over everyone. Yet, there are many who are unable to take advantage of the sun rays. Now, the sun equally gives its rays, but there are those that cannot take advantage of the sun rays. Not taking advantage of the sun rays is not the fault of the sun. If there's a plant that cannot take advantage of the sun, it is not the fault of the sun, it is the fault of the plant. So similarly, the Lord says that surrendering unto him is the guarantee of all protection from him. But unfortunate persons who are unable to accept this proposition, and therefore they suffer from all material miseries. So even though the Lord is equally well-wishing to everyone, the unfortunate living being, due to bad association only, is unable to accept his instructions in total. And for this, the Lord is never to be blamed. He is called a well-wisher for the devotees only. He appears to be partial to his devotees, but factually the matter rests on living beings to accept or reject equal treatment from the Lord. So if we don't accept the mercy of Krishna, it is not Krishna's fault, it is our fault. The disqualification is on our side. Now, we have not taken the opportunity to grab Krishna's mercy. Krishna is equally giving his mercy. And if someone realizes that mistake, then they can always turn to Krishna. Krishna will never deny them at any point in time. Steadiness of mind can be expanded to also mean that the Lord never deviates from his word of honor. So if Krishna says he's going to protect you, rest assured, he will protect. When he gives assurance for protection, the promise is executed in all circumstances. See the case of Prahlad Maharaj. He was protected in every circumstance. It is the duty of the pure devotee to be fixed in the discharge of the duty entrusted to him by the Lord, or the Lord's bona fide representative, the spiritual master. So Prahlad Maharaj got his instructions from Narad Muni. He was fixed on that and he never deviated. And because of that, he was always protected. So it's up to us to discharge the duty entrusted to us by Krishna, by Srila Prabhupada, coming in disciplic succession by the spiritual master. The rest is carried out by the Lord without a break. So our duty is to follow the instructions given to us by Prabhupada. And if we follow that, the rest is up to Krishna. He will make arrangements. Therefore, a devotee is never scared, never fearful. A devotee is not worried about death. Devotee is not fearful in any circumstance. Why? Because he's fully dedicated and committed to discharging his duty, and he leaves everything to Krishna, who's fully capable, who can do anything, who's all-powerful, according to the different qualities we read. And in this way, he is completely sheltered. Just like a child, Prabhupada often give this example. When the child is with his father, he's fearless. If somebody comes and tries to threaten him, he just goes behind his father and he has no fear at all because he knows my father is here. So this way, if we always take shelter of Krishna, then there is no fear, no anxiety. The responsibility of the Lord is also unique. The Lord has no responsibility because all his work is done by his different appointed energies. But still, he accepts voluntary responsibilities in displaying different roles in his transcendental pastimes. As a boy, he was playing the part of a coward boy. As a son of Nandamaj, he was discharging responsibility perfectly. Similarly, when he was playing the part of a Kshatriya as a son of Maj Vasudev, he displayed all the skills of a martially spirited Kshatriya. In almost all cases, the Kshatriya king has to secure a wife by fighting or kidnapping. This sort of behavior for a Kshatriya is praiseworthy in the sense that a Kshatriya must show his power of chivalry to his would-be wife, so that the daughter of the Kshatriya can see the valor of her would-be husband. Even the personality of Godhead, Sri Ram, displayed such spirit of chivalry during his marriage. He broke the strongest bow, all Haradanu, and achieved the hand of Sita Devi, the mother of all opulences. The Kshatriya spirit is displayed during the marriage festival, and there is nothing wrong in such fighting. Lord Shri Krishna discharged such responsibility fully, because although he had more than 16,000 wives, in each and every case, he fought like a chivalrous Kshatriya and thus secured a wife. To fight 16,000 times to secure 16,000 wives, certainly possible only for the personality of Godhead. Similarly, to display full responsibility in every action of his different transcendental pastimes. Similarly, he displayed full responsibility in every action of his different transcendental pastimes. So Krishna, as a friend, he was a perfect, responsible friend. As a son, perfect, responsible son. As a lover, as a king, in every aspect, Krishna is a perfect, responsible personality. So we should have firm faith. If I depend on Krishna, he'll be responsible. He'll do everything wonderfully and perfectly. 14th quality, knowledge, can be further divided into 5 subheadings, namely intelligence, gratefulness, power of understanding the circumstantial environments of place, objects, and time, perfect knowledge of everything, and knowledge of the self. Only fools are ungrateful to their benefactors. The Lord, however, does not require benefit from anyone besides himself, because he is full in himself. Still, he feels benefited by the unalloyed service of his devotees. The Lord feels grateful to his devotees for such unsophisticated, unconditional service and tries to reciprocate it by rendering service to them. Although the devotees have no such desire in their hearts, rendering transcendental service to the Lord is itself a transcendental benefit for the devotee, and therefore the devotee has nothing to expect from the Lord. So we should cultivate this consciousness that I'm serving simply to please Krishna. Nothing more, nothing less. I don't want anything else in return. And the fact that I have service, that itself is a reward. That itself is a benefit. So when I serve like that, unsophisticated, unconditional, without any motive, Krishna, even though he doesn't need anything and is complete Atmarama and full in himself, still he reciprocates with that service. On the assertion of the Vedic homophoism, Sarva Kalvam Idam Brahma, we can understand that the Lord, by the omnipresent rays of his effulgence called Brahmajyoti, is all-pervading inside or outside of everything, like the omnipresent material sky, and thus he is also omniscient. As far as the beauty of the Lord is concerned, he has some special features that distinguish him from all other living beings, and over and above that, he has some special attractive, beautiful features by which he attracts the mind even Radhavani, the supermost beautiful creation of the Lord. He is known therefore as Madan Mohan, or one who attracts the mind of even Cupid. Srila Jiva Goswami has scrutinizingly analyzed the transcendental qualities of the Lord and affirmed that Lord Shri Krishna is the absolute supreme personality of Godhead, Parabrahman. He is omnipotent by his inconceivable energies, and therefore he is the Yogeshwar, or the supreme master of all mystic powers. Because he is the Yogeshwar, his eternal form is spiritual, a combination of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. The non-devotee class cannot understand the dynamic nature of his knowledge because they are satisfied to reach up to his eternal form of knowledge. So we don't want to only just go up to the chit feature of Krishna. There's Brahman realization of Krishna, Paramatma realization of Krishna, and Bhagavan realization of Krishna. The Brahman realization allows you to realize only the Sat feature of Krishna. Then the Paramatma allows you to realize up to Chit, but Bhagavan allows you to realize Sat, Chit, and Ananda in full Vigraha, in full form. All great souls aspire to be equal in knowledge with him. This means that all other knowledge is ever insufficient, flexible, and measurable, whereas the knowledge of the Lord is ever fixed and unfathomable. Srila Jiva Goswami affirms in the Bhagavatam that although he was observed by the citizens of Dwarka every day, they were ever increasingly anxious to see him again and again. Living beings can appreciate the qualities of the Lord as the ultimate goal, but they cannot attain the status quo of such quality. This material world is a product of Mahatattva, which is a state of the Lord's dreaming condition in his yoga nidra mystic slumber in the causal ocean, and yet the whole creation appears to be a factual presentation. This means that the Lord's dreaming condition are also factual manifestations. He can therefore bring everything under his transcendental control, and thus, whenever and wherever he does appear, he does so in his fullness. The Lord being all that is described above, he alone can maintain the affairs of the creation, and by his so doing, so he gives salvation even to his enemies who are killed by him. He is attractive even to the topmost liberated souls, and thus he is worshipable even by Brahma and Shiva, the greatest of all demigods. Even in his incarnation of Purusha Avatar, he is the Lord of the creative energy. The creative material energy is working under his direction, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 9:10. He's the control switch of the material energy, and to control the material energy in the innumerable universes, he is the root cause of innumerable incarnations in all universes. There are more than 500,000 incarnations of Manu in only one universe, besides other incarnations, and thus we can simply imagine the number of his incarnations in all the universes. In the spiritual world, however, beyond the Mahatattva, there is no question of incarnations, but there are plenary expansions of the Lord in different Vaikunthas. The planets in the spiritual sky are at least 3 times the number of those within the innumerable universes in the Mahatattva. And all the Narayan forms of the Lord are but expansions of his Vasudeva feature, and thus he is Vasudev, Narayan and Krishna simultaneously. He is Sri Krishna, Govinda, Hare Murari, He Natha Yana Vasudeva, all in one. His qualities therefore cannot be counted by anyone, however great one may be. Atmanam Chanusho Chanmi Bhavatam Chamaro Tamam Devam Pitrin Rishin Sadhun Sarvan Varnamstatashramam. I was thinking about myself and also, O best amongst the demigods, about you, as well as about all the demigods, sages, denizens of Pritaloka, devotees of the Lord, and all men obedient to the system of Varna and Ashram in human society. So because Krishna has left, then naturally Mother Earth was concerned about all these different personalities and the impact of Kali, because the influence will obviously impact these personalities. To effect the perfection of human life, there is cooperation between men and demigods, sages, denizens of Pritaloka, devotees of the Lord, and scientific system of Varna and Shastam, orders of life. The distinction between human life and animal life must begin with the scientific system of Varna and Ashram, guided by the experience of the sages and in relation with the demigods. Gradually, rising to the summit of re-establishing our eternal relationship with the person, supreme, absolute truth, the personality of God at Lord Shri Krishna. So in the first part, Prabhupada is establishing the fact that the Varnashram system, which is created by Krishna, is scientific. And it is meant to gradually help those who are coming from the animal type of consciousness to become human beings, to then evolve spiritually and eventually reach the highest level of re-establishing our relationship with Krishna. So that's what the Varnashram system is designed to do, with the proper guidance of the sages and the demigods. When God made Varnashram system, a Varnashram Dharma, which is strictly meant for developing animal consciousness into human consciousness and human consciousness into godly consciousness, is broken by advancement of foolishness, the whole system of peaceful and progressive life is at once disturbed. And we see that happening currently as we speak. In this age of Kali, the first attack of the venomous snake strikes against God-made Varnashram Dharma. And thus a person properly qualified as a Brahmana is called a Sudra. And a Sudra, by qualification, is passing as a Brahmana, all on a false birthright claim. To become a Brahmana by birthright claim is not at all bona fide, although it may be a fulfillment of one of the conditions. But the real qualification of a Brahmana is to control the mind and the senses and to cultivate tolerance, simplicity, cleanliness, knowledge, truthfulness, devotion, and faith in the Vedic wisdom. In the present age, consideration of the necessary qualification is being neglected, and the false birthright claim is being supported even by a popular, sophisticated poet, the author of Ramcharitamanas. This is all due to the influence of the age of Kali. Thus, Mother Earth, represented as a cow, was lamenting the regrettable condition. And we can see, if you study the history of the acharyas, even in South India, Sankaracharya, all the different acharyas, even when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left in Navadvip, etc., even at the time when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was on the planet, this type of consciousness that you must be born in a Brahmin family to be a Brahmin was there and very, very strong. Practically all the acharyas were fighting against us. Even Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarmaj was fighting against us. And even now in certain parts of India, this is still prevalent. You must be a Brahmin, born in a Brahmin, now you're automatically a Brahmin. And we see even Prabhupada's quoting Tulsidas, who is the author of Ramcharitamanas, even though Prabhupada made it very clear in his purports that he's a great devotee of Lord Ram. But we see that in his writings, he also had this aspect of false birthright. And this Prabhupada is basically saying, whether it's has been there for whatever reason in the past, it is all the influence of the age of Kali to try to break the Varnashram system down. And devotees of the Lord coming into cyclic succession have been fighting against this to make sure that they establish the Varna and Ashram on a very scientific and solid foundation so that people can grow spiritually. 32 and 33. Brahmadyo bahutitam yat apanga moksha kamastapa samacharan bhagavata prapana sa shri swavashan aravindavannam vihaya yat pada sobhagam alambhajate nu rakta tasyaham abja kuli shankusha ketu ketai Srimad Bhagavatam Samalankritaṅgi Trin atyaro cha upalabhya tato vibhutim lokan samam vyashjad Utsma Yatim Tad Ante. Lakshmiji, the goddess of fortune, whose glance of grace was sought by demigods like Brahma, and for whom they surrendered many a day unto the personality of Godhead, gave up her own abode in the forest of lotus flowers and engaged herself in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord. I was endowed with specific powers to subdue the fortune of all the three planetary systems by being decorated with the impressions of the flag, thunderbolt, elephant driving rod, and lotus flower, which are the signs of the lotus feet of the Lord. But at the end, when I felt I was so fortunate, the Lord left me. So Mother Earth is thinking about how fortunate she was. Krishna was walking barefoot on her in Vrindavan, and the imprints of his lotus feet were on her body. Purport. The beauty and opulence of the world can be enhanced by the grace of the Lord and not by any man-made planning. When the Lord Shri Krishna was present on this earth, the impressions of the special signs of his lotus feet were stamped on the dust, and as a result of this specific grace, the whole earth was made as perfect as possible. In other words, the rivers, the seas, the forests, the hills, the mines, which are supplying agents of the necessities of men and animals, were fully discharging their respective duties. So these aspects of nature, rivers, seas, forests, hills, mines, are not inanimate. They're not unconscious. They are aware. And when Krishna appeared, they reciprocated with Krishna. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So naturally, by his touch, by his presence, by his appearance, they also wanted to serve him. And naturally, by him coming, they were inspired to produce and serve very respectful, very dutifully. So everything was provided. There was no lack, absolutely no lack. Therefore, the riches of the world surpassed all the riches of all planets in the three planetary systems of the universe. One should therefore ask that the grace of the Lord always be present on earth, so that we may be favored by his causeless mercy and be happy, having all necessities of life in abundance. Another wonderful statement by Srila Prabhupada. One should therefore ask that the grace of the Lord always be present on earth. So not only should we be asking for the grace of the Lord, my Lord, please be merciful to me, please be graceful to me, but also we should be asking and praying so that the grace be upon the whole earth, everyone. May everyone receive your benediction, your glance, your grace. Then, why? So that we may be favored with his causeless mercy. And if we are favored, all favored by his causeless mercy, what is the consequence? We'll be happy. That's the first point. We'll be happy. And having all the necessities of life in abundance. So that means that someone who is God conscious, like Srila Prabhupada, they had the causeless mercy of Krishna, implying that they were always happy. And they had all the necessities of life in abundance. There was no lack. When we surrender to Krishna and are blessed by Krishna's mercy, we will be happy and there will be no lack in our necessities of life. We will have an abundance. Krishna's creation is not poverty-stricken. when one has a poverty mindset, then he attracts poverty. When we are Krishna conscious, someone who is Krishna conscious, he has an abundance mindset, because he's seeing Krishna's inconceivable, unlimited potencies and energies. Prabhupada would often say Krishna is not a pauper. One time in America, they started the Sunday Love Feast. And the idea was to cook a nice love feast and distribute. Wonderful feast. Very opulent feast. So they were talking with Srila Prabhupada, and the devotee asked Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, we should invite people. And the devotee was saying, but Prabhupada, if more and more people come, how would we provide for them? Prabhupada said, even the whole of America can come and we'll be able to provide. So this was Prabhupada's consciousness. Because Prabhupada wasn't thinking that I am providing. No, Prabhupada is thinking Krishna is making arrangements. So even if the whole of America come, Krishna is not a pauper, we'll be able to provide. But as soon as you think I am in control, I am providing, I am the fundraiser, then the limitation is there, and one will be thinking, more people mustn't come. Hopefully less people come so that we can prepare. No. Somebody who's totally dependent on Krishna, as we have read, we are not self-sufficient. Krishna is self-sufficient. When we depend on Krishna, when we surrender to Krishna, then Krishna will provide. That doesn't mean we don't make any efforts. We don't put any effort. No. We have to do our share. We have to put the effort. We have to make arrangements. We have to act intelligently. The action has to be there. So as we discussed this in Bhagavad Gita, that you act like everything depends on you, but the result depends on Krishna. See, if you only think that, okay, everything is dependent on Krishna, so let Krishna do everything. Why should I do everything? That's not the right consciousness. The consciousness is that you need to act like everything is dependent on you. That means you do everything in your power and potency and ability, but depend fully on Krishna, because ultimately it is Krishna who delivers the results for his pleasure, for his enjoyment. But we should know that creation is filled with abundance. There is absolutely no lack in material creation. It is simply where you are situated. It's simply where your consciousness is situated. One may ask how we can detain the Supreme Lord on this earth after his mission is fulfilled and he has left this earth for his own abode. The answer is that there is no need to detain the Lord. The Lord, being omnipresent, can be present with us if we want him at all. By his omnipresence, he can always be with us if we are attached to his devotional service by hearing, chanting, remembering, etc. The Lord is omnipresent and can be present with us if we want him at all. So Krishna, even though he has left 5,000 years ago back to the spiritual world, but he's omnipresent. Just like Prahlad Maharaj was asked, is your Lord everywhere? Yes, he's everywhere. I can see him everywhere. Is he in this pillar? Yes, he's in the pillar. So a pure devotee who loves Krishna will see him everywhere. As conditioned souls or practitioners, aspiring practitioners, what we need to work on is this point that Prabhupada is saying, do you want him at all? If you want Krishna, he'll be there. If you don't want him, Krishna will not force himself and he will never be available. And that's why when atheists say God doesn't exist, they're correct. Because they don't want him. And therefore they will not see him. Even if we are to bring Krishna right in front of their eyes, they will not see him. Because they don't want him. But those who want Krishna, he'll be there. So we need to strengthen this part of our Krishna consciousness. We want to develop the desire, the intense desire to want Krishna. And want Krishna, why? Not for him to serve us, so that we can have his grace, so that we can have his mercy, so that we can have his favor, his causeless mercy, so that we can have the opportunity to serve him. This is why we want him. And if we have that desire, then he'll be there. By his omnipresence, he can always be with us if we are attached to his devotional service by hearing, chanting, remembering. So that want, that desire that we need to establish, that I want Krishna, how is that practically shown? What is the visible symptom that, yes, you want Krishna? Because want is a desire. It's a very subtle. I can't see wants. And if you see someone, you don't know what they want because it's subtle. But externally, if we are attached to his devotional service, hearing, chanting, remembering, that's a sign that you want Krishna. So the more we constantly hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, worshipping, that is Krishna's practical sign of the internal desire that you want. There is nothing in this world from which the Lord is disconnected. The only thing we must learn is to excavate the source of connection and thus be linked with him by offenseless service. The only thing we must learn is to excavate the source of connection and be linked with him by offenseless service. So we need to excavate, we need to renovate, we need to revive the connection. We have that connection. See? Excavate means it's buried, it's covered. So we excavating it, we bring it out. So link is already there, connection is already there. That alone should give us, should inspire us, that we already connected. So because I'm already connected, now all I need to do is just remove the dirt, excavate it, and thus be linked with Krishna. That linking process is offenseless service. Not just service, offenseless service. So the quality of the service, the attention to the service, the consciousness behind that service, the mood behind that service is important, not just the external service. We can be connected with him by the transcendental sound representation of the Lord. The holy name of the Lord and the Lord himself are identical, and one who chants the holy name of the Lord in an offenseless manner can at once realize the Lord is present before him. So this practice, the process to chant Hare Krishna is the connection with God, and the quality of the chanting needs to be offenseless. So therefore we need to chant with attention. The more we chant with attention, trying to avoid inattentive chanting, the 10 offenses to the holy name, then we will find more and more that connection becoming alive, excavated. So we want to chant as many times as we can, as offenselessly as we can, to allow that connection and experience to that connection to be there. Even by the vibration of radio sound, we can partially realize the presence of what is related to the sound. And by resounding the sound of transcendence, we can verily feel the presence of the Lord. In this age, when everything is polluted by the contamination of Kali, it is instructed in the scriptures and preached by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that chanting the holy name of the Lord, we can at once be freed from contamination, gradually rise to the status of transcendence, and go back home, back to Godhead. Offenseless chanters of the holy name of the Lord are as auspicious as the Lord himself. And the movement of such pure devotees of the Lord all over the world can at once change the troublesome face of the world. Only by the propagation of the chanting of the holy name of the Lord can we be immune from all effects of the age of Kali. So all the negative influences of Kali can be counteracted with the process of chanting the holy name of Krishna. Very simple. Robert would say simple, but sublime. Not simple and cheap, but simple and sublime. Sublime means something that's transcendental, something that gives you something beyond matter. So it is simple, but also it is not easy because of the mind, because of the agitation of the mind, because of sins that are there. So therefore, the more we chant, the more we get purified of the sins. The more we get purified of the sins, the more the mind settles. The more the mind settles, when the chitta is purified, then we can focus our attention. The more we focus our attention and just hear the holy name, the more the impact of that connection will be felt. Krishna's presence will be felt, and then the holy name will start to reveal its personality more and more and more. So we have been given the secret, chanting the holy names of the Lord by Sri Mahaprabhu. And this can immunize us of all the ill effects of Kali Yuga. So the responsibility and the duty lies upon us. We have been given everything. Now it's up to us to embrace, to apply it practically with the proper consciousness, and in this way experience it for ourselves as well as influence the planet simply through this wonderful process of chanting the holy names of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Text 34. Yo vai mamati baram asura vamsa rajnam akshohini satam apanudad atmatantraya vam dushtam unapadam atmani paurushena sampradyan yadushuram yam abhirad angam. O personality of religion, I was greatly overburdened by the undue military phalanx arranged by the atheistic kings, and I was relieved by the grace of the personality of Godhead. Similarly, you were also in a distressed condition, weakened in your standing strength, and thus he also incarnated by his internal energy in the family of the Yadus to relieve you. Purport. The Asuras want to enjoy a life of sense gratification, even at the cost of others' happiness. In order to fulfill this ambition, the Asuras, especially atheistic kings and state executive heads, try to equip themselves with all kinds of deadly weapons to bring about a war in a peaceful society. They have no ambition other than personal aggrandizement, and Mother Earth feels overburdened by such undue increase of military strength. By the increase of the Asuric population, religious principles are hampered, and with the result, that all the people of the world, especially devotees or the devas, become unhappy to see the anomalies of the Suric civilization of self-aggrandizement. In such a situation, the personality of God incarnates to vanquish the unwanted asuras and to re-establish the true principles of religion. This was the mission of Lord Shri Krishna, and he fulfilled it. And this cycles, winter and summer cycles. Similarly, this type of cycle, asuras come, the Lord comes, he destroys the asuras, re-establishes dharma, and after some time, asuras mentality, more asuras develop, overpower dharma. Lord comes, re-establish dharma, and the cycles continues again and again and again. We are blessed that now in this age of Kali, the Lord has come as the holy name. Krishna has incarnated as the holy name, and we can take shelter of the holy name and serve this incarnation of the holy name to benefit ourselves and to help the holy name protect and benefit this whole world. 35. Kava saheta viraham purushottamasya prema vadokam ruchismattaval bujalpai stairyam samanam aha ranmadu mahi ninam promatsavo mam yad angriya vitankitaya. Who therefore can tolerate the pangs of separation from the Supreme Personality of Godhead? He could conquer the gravity and passionate wrath of his sweethearts like Satyabhama by his sweet smile of love, pleasing glance, and hearty appeals. When he traversed my earth's surface, I would be immersed in the dust of his lotus feet, and thus would be sumptuously covered with grass, which appeared like hairs standing on me out of pleasure. There were chances of separation between the Lord and his devotees, thousands of queens, because of the Lord's being absent from home. But as far as his connection with earth was concerned, the Lord would traverse the earth with his lotus feet, and therefore there was no chance of separation. When the Lord left the surface of the earth to return to his spiritual abode, the earth's feeling of separation was therefore more acute. So Mother Earth, no doubt, was feeling Krishna's presence for at least 125 years that he was on the earth, because his lotus feet were touching her. And therefore she was in bliss. Her hair was standing on end, grass was standing on end. She was in ecstasy. And now when Krishna left, she's feeling that separation, and therefore a state of despondency and heartbrokenness. 36. Tayorevam katayato prithivi dharma yostada parikshin namarajarshi praptar prachim sarasvatim. While the earth and personality of religion were thus engaged in conversation, the saintly king Parikshit reached the shore of the Saraswati river, which flowed towards the east. So as this discussion was proceeding, Maharaj Parikshit now appears on the scene, and thus ends the Bhaktivinoda purport of the 5th canto, 16th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled How Parikshit Received the Age of Kali. Pantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Go Pramande Hari Hari. And next week we will continue with a new chapter and see how much Parikshit inquires about the situation, and many wonderful lessons we are going to now receive from this pastime that's going to continue. All right, are there any questions or comments, reflections anyone has? Mother Les said, "Oh, you lament when you can't do devotional service." Yes. when we don't have the opportunity to serve, then that becomes the greatest anxiety. We should be attached to service and we should find some service. Now, chanting the holy names of Krishna is service. Hearing Srimad Bhagavatam is service. So in that sense, service is always there. It's always available. We'll always have service, but we also want to do some practical service for the deities, for the devotees. So some practical service is also very, very conducive for devotional service. And also, if I'm just reading and chanting on my own, that's good. But serving collectively with devotees is also purifying. It also has its benefit to polish us, shine us up, because it's not easy. Sometimes there may be clash of personalities, etc. So it may not be easy, but serving that association and maintaining that with a sober mind, pleasing Krishna, and that is very, very purifying. Mauti Valika says, thank you, Prabhu, for sharing this transcendental nectar. We are grateful. Hari Hari Bol. Thank you. Shamananda Prabhu says, thanks for the wonderful class regarding the surrendered and unsurrendered souls. We hear that the material creation makes up 1/4 of the total creation, and the other 3/4 is spiritual. Could you share a little of the souls here in the material world and the souls in spiritual, anything in terms of number? Are there always souls leaving the spiritual to come here, and sometimes eventually go back home? So in one purport of conversation, Prabhupada says 10%. So like 10% is here, 90% is there. Minority is here, majority is there. And the fluctuation, there are unlimited number of souls and depending on Krishna's service for them, they may come to this material world. So falling from the spiritual world can be understood in 2 ways. One is that there are souls who are coming from Brahman, Brahmajyoti. There are souls coming from Vaikuntha, and there are souls coming from Goloka Vrindavan. So for example, Jan Vijay, they apparently falling, but not really falling. They are in Krishna's pastimes. So Prabhupada says that in one sense, we are not really falling from the spiritual world. We'll read different purports. One purport says there's the spiritual world, the kingdom of God, and then there's the material creation, which is also the kingdom of God. So you're just going from one kingdom to another kingdom. You're not really falling from the spiritual world. It's still the kingdom of God. It's your consciousness that gets covered, right? It's your consciousness that goes into a state of forgetfulness, not so much like you falling down. Prabhupada gives another example in a letter that it's like you are with Krishna, and for a split second you think, and the example is also given by Burijan Prabhu. You open up Krishna's lunchbox, and we know that Srimati Radhavani prepares lunch for Krishna, so it's totally new. We don't know what's in there, so you're also curious, and Krishna is also curious. So you pick up the kachori and you don't know what filling is in there. and you meant to put it in Krishna's mouth for Krishna to honor. But you think, I should take a bite. I should enjoy first and taste. That's a thought that may come. And if you think like that, then split second, you are in the material world trying to enjoy that thought for however long it is. And then split second, you're back in the spiritual world. And Krishna is saying, where you went? So it's like, when children daydream, they daydream for a few seconds, but they were actually in their consciousness practically dreaming a whole lifetime. So time can expand and contract. So even though you were as you were putting the kachori in Krishna's mouth, you froze for 1 second. That 1 second was your consciousness of, let me try to enjoy separately, and then you're back, and then you give Krishna the kachori. So you really didn't fall. You were still there. Just that your consciousness came and now you were in a different dimension. As Prabhupada explains, this material world is Mahavishnu's dream. So we are all in Mahavishnu's dream. It's like the Matrix. When the scientists come up with these things like Matrix, it's like you're in something there, right? We're in Mahavishnu's dream. So therefore, how the living entities fall in this material world, Prabhupada says that we will not understand with this type of consciousness. With the mundane consciousness, it becomes very difficult to answer that question. When we come out of the material world, then that question can be asked, but then it will be irrelevant. So in relation to, how many are falling, where they're falling from, that is an inconceivable question to answer. But we know that another purport also says that as soon as, if somebody's in the spiritual world and they develop a thought, because one is always independent, then Maya is outside. She just strikes like a lightning and down you are. In that way, then you obviously rectify your consciousness and you go back. So I hope that answered that specific questions. And Krishna wants you to come to the material world like Prabhupada for service. Then one can also come and render service. Curses are there, demons are falling, sages are cursing, Narad Muni cursing, the demigods, they're falling. So there may be different reasons why people come in this world. And then there are those that appear because different living entities, even though they're born from Brahman, they are those who are Nitya Siddhas, Nitya Baddhas. So they are souls that are eternally coming from Krishna, his energies, and there are souls coming from Balaram, from his expansion. Okay, so there are souls coming from different incarnations, and they belong in different territories. So even souls are coming from the Brahman effulgence. They all are part and parcel of Krishna, and they all have their situation or their position in those stratums. And then those who are born in Brahman, because they don't have experience of the spiritual world, in most cases, they choose the material world. And then after that experience, they realize, nope, I need to actually go higher, and then they go higher. So there are different dynamics that are there like that. Mother Lash, Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for the wonderful transcendental Krishna Katha. My query relates to the 5,000 incarnations of Manu in this one universe. I thought there were only 14 Manus during the life of Brahma. How and where did these numbers or incarnations fit? Yes. So a Manu is a type of incarnation. Manvantar avatar. Okay, Manu. 14 Manus in the day of Brahma. But the Manus, they have a certain duration. One Manu has a certain duration. And in that duration, Krishna appears. And that totals to 500,000. Prabhupada, approximate number. So it's not, Prabhupada is not referring to the 14 Manus. Prabhupada is referring to the duration of the 14 Manus. And in that duration of the 14 Manus, That's the number of incarnations that are there. Bafana Prabhu, it's so very interesting how instead of seeing the grand full quality of the Lord fully enunciated in a manner that the purport gives, I actually see Srila Prabhupada as actually in full with all these qualities, that it is far-fetched to directly go to Sri Krishna when he, Srila Prabhupada, is so close and has all these qualities of the Lord. Yes. And therefore, the devotees that were in the presence of Srila Prabhupada found Prabhupada to be even more close to Krishna naturally, and therefore that bond was stronger to Prabhupada than to Krishna. And most of them were happy to know Prabhupada, because if they know Prabhupada, they know Krishna. And they're experiencing Krishna's qualities coming through Srila Prabhupada. So yes, these qualities were experienced by those that were close to Srila Prabhupada. And naturally, the more we associate with Prabhupada through his Bhaktivedanta purports, through his form in terms of the deity, through his mission, then we will also experience that closeness. So you are correct. We can definitely experience more acutely Prabhupada's association and these qualities, although there are certain qualities that Krishna has that the living entity cannot have. So in the Nectar Devotion, you'll find 64 qualities listed, and the living entity can only have up to 50 qualities of the 64. Then Lord Shiva, so that means the living entity which is up to Lord Brahma, the highest living entity, can have up to 50. Then Lord Shiva can have the next 5. And then Lord Vishnu can have the next 5. And then Krishna is the only one that has the last 4. So in this way, some of the qualities will never be in the living entity, even those who are Nitya, Siddha, Nitya perfected living beings. Mother Shavina, what pastime of Krishna can we link to his quality of immovability to? So one pastime of immovability, so depending on how we're going to see, immovability means Krishna is fixed. Krishna is unshakable, and unshakable in the sense that he's strong, you can't move him. He's strong in terms of, let's say, his duty, his responsibility, unwavering, not fickle. So in the churning of the ocean, they needed something to keep the Menaka mountain as a pivot, and the Lord incarnated as a tortoise. So as a tortoise, he was unshakable kurma, so that the mountain could be fixed on his unshakable form. And when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj was growing up, then Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur gave him a deity of Kurma, so that by worshipping Kurma, he would be fixed, strongly founded, immovable. So that's one example. I'm trying to think of in relation to Krishna's pastimes, where the question is, what pastime of Krishna can we link to his quality of immovability? So I'll meditate on this for the next week. You all can also meditate, and we'll see if we can find next week, we can share a quality of immovable where Krishna was never shaken. And then again, I guess it depends. We need to understand also the understanding of immovability. What's interesting is, so for example, this question of immovability, Prabhupada says we can take this and understand it from different angles as long as it is based on Siddhanta, is based on truth. So we may have different, each of us may realize a different aspect of immovability, and then we may be able to see Krishna's pastimes in that perspective. So for example, Krishna was always fixed in terms of dharma. You could not move Krishna against dharma. Krishna's personality is never adharmic. He's immovable in terms of dharma. He's fixed, founded, grounded, and he'll always stand for and promote dharma. Never adharma, immovable. You can't move him away from that perspective. So that's like an example. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita was spoken. And that's why Krishna can speak Bhagavad Gita, because he's never against dharma. But we'll see if there's more pastimes we can share next week. Thank you. Shamo says, thank you very much for excellent class. Mother Lash, can immovability also be his all-pervasive aspect? You cannot remove him, and he's everywhere, and he cannot be separated. Yes. Because if he's everywhere, you can't move him. Because where are you going to move him? He's everywhere. So that's also one way to see it. Krishna is everywhere. Immovable. And what I'll do is I'll look at the Sanskrit also and see if Prabhupada in any other purport talks about that. And if we do not find anything like this, then the beauty is we can keep that as a burning desire in the back of our consciousness. And when we're praying to the holy name, then Krishna can give us further realization. Because we may not know everything. We don't know everything. But by developing this relationship with the holy name and with Krishna, slowly we're developing a relationship, and Krishna can then reveal at different points in our journey. So yes, like that we can always aspire for more and more realizations that can come. Govardhan, yes, the Govardhan pastime is also another pastime in terms of immovable. Krishna as Govardhan hill is immovable. It's a mountain, it's fixed. Afana Prabhu says, it is very interesting how, okay, I think we've done that. Yes, what pastime? Good. Okay, good. Yamavati says Govardhan pastime, so definitely. Thank you very much for everyone's feedback and questions. We will meet again next week and start with a new chapter. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Go Pramanande, Hari Hari.